North Jefferson Raymore. A couple of years ago, Oats Incorporated and its riders came to the Raymore City Council to request sponsorship of a bus. These buses help homebound senior citizens in our community to get out one day a week to do their shopping and have lunch in Raymore. Each week, the Oats bus provides this service to local tax-paying citizens. 1 week of the month, the bus is sponsored by Mid-America Regional Council, 1 week by the City of Belton, and 1 week by my business, Adams Insurance Services. We are currently still looking for sponsorship for a 4th week of the month. The demand for the service continues to grow. Currently, we serve 18 riders a week with a waiting list that continues to grow. I've been actively contacting local businesses and organizations to request donations for sponsorship of the 4th bus. The cost of a bus for the entire year is only $2,800. That provides a driver and bus for 8 hours of shopping and dining time for the riders. I come to you tonight to once again ask the Raymore City Council to consider sponsoring or helping to sponsor a 4th bus. I know there are those on the council who 2 years ago said this is not a city responsibility. And I remind each of you that the city allocates money every year that only serves a segment of our population, whether it be special projects or regular park funding. This small amount of $2,800 would provide a valuable service to a growing segment of our community. Just this year, we have budgeted $76,000 for new carpet here in City Hall, $25,000 for a disc golf course, and $8,000 for a City Hall paging system upgrade, and $1 million was transferred to a restricted fund for consideration of a future indoor-outdoor recreation facility that's really just an unrealistic pipe dream. The projected available fund balance for this year is $942,000. This $2,800 request would represent 0.3% of the available money. As we approach the 2014-15 budget season, I ask that the members of the council consider a resolution to provide just $2,400, which would provide for the Oats bus until the end of the contract year, which is June of 2015, and then provide for $2,800 in the next budget to keep that bus in service until June 2016. In the meantime, we will continue to work to find businesses and individuals in the city to provide private funding to keep this monthly bus in service. Any monies that we're able to get from private businesses, of course, would reduce any obligation or a request from the city. Thank you for allowing me for your time. I do have individual donor pledges if any individuals would like to make a pledge to just say, if you need the money, this is how much I'm willing to contribute, and I'll leave those with the city clerk.
Thank you. Although they're not making a personal appearance, I will recognize that we do have a Boy Scout troop in our audience this evening, Troop 32, working on merit badges tonight, are you? Well, I hope we have a good meeting for you. So we'll move on then to staff reports.
Thank you, sir. I will ask Ms. Warner, City Clerk, to make a report.
Thank you. Good evening. A couple of meeting reminders. One is the Fall MML Conference to be held in St. Charles, September the 14th through the 17th. The RSVP is fastly approaching of September the 1st. So if you haven't already and you're interested, please contact the office and let us know of your attendance. The second one is the joint meeting with the City of Peculiar, Cass County, City of Peculiar, Cass County officials, the school district, and city officials from Raymore. That is scheduled to be on August the 20th. Again, if you haven't RSVP'd and you plan to attend, that deadline is this Friday. At this time, besides staff, there are only 3 elected officials that have RSVP'd to attend the joint meeting. Staff would like to ask council, if that number does not increase, would it be your pleasure to cancel the meeting? We can send it. I'll send an email later on this week. But consideration for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Warner. I'll call on Mr. Cataret, Community Development Director.
Thank you. Just to go over upcoming board and commission meetings, our Board of Adjustment will meet tomorrow evening in the council chambers at 7 o'clock. They will be considering a request filed by Hunt Midwest for the Benton House of Raymore, a proposed facility there in the Timber Trail subdivision. The request tomorrow evening is to reduce the number of required parking spaces from 73 down to 62. The requirement is 1 space per bed in the facility, and With the proposed second phase, there'd be a total of 73 beds in all. They are requesting to reduce that number down to 62. Then the Planning Commission will next meet on August 19th. They have a number of final plat applications. They're looking at the Benton House final plat, Edgewater at Creekmore 4th plat, the Westbrook at Creekmore 10th plat, and then the Brookside 10th plat, as well as they'll be considering the 20th Amendment to the UDC, which deals with stormwater treatment. This is an item that they considered back at the July meeting and is coming up for continued discussion August 19th. Then at the September 2nd meeting, they will hear the 2015-2019 CIP plan, as well as the site plan for the Benton House facility. So those are the upcoming meetings for the board. Thank you.
Questions for staff? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cataret. I will ask Mr. Kennedy, Parks and Rec Director, to make a report.
Thank you, Mr. Fearborn. Good evening. Our new disc golf course, just a short report on that. The front 9 holes are now open. Excuse me. And the golf course has been very popular. Just about any given time, you can walk out and see golfers throwing discs at the different targets. We do have a map of the course. You can pick one up at the front desk, or if you want to get on the Raymore website to raymore.com at disc golf map. There's also one available there. Then the front office has a disc available. If you do not have one and would like to try it, we would be glad to loan you one so you can come out and take a whirl at this new sport for Raymore. Our Nature Quest program is enrolling now. What Nature Quest is, it's a program for kids 5 to 15 years old that encourages them and their parents to experience the natural world. They use a lot of the Raymore parks and trails, plus they visit places outside our community that have unique nature offerings. Soccer. We currently have 265 youth enrolled, which is almost exactly the same number we had last year. We do expect a few more because inevitably when school starts out, a lot of parents figure out, uh-oh, didn't get the kids signed up for soccer. So I have a feeling that we will be seeing more signups in the near future. Mr. Mayor, the weather is actually going to be 74 degrees with a light breeze tomorrow at the farmers market. No one will have an excuse not to come out. It's at the very height of the vegetable season, so we encourage you to come out and participate in the market. Summer Quest concluded this last Friday. We actually had 129 kids signed up for Summer Quest this year. We averaged about 72 a week, and how that works out is you do not have to sign up for all the weeks. So if you sign up for just a few, we still had at least 72 campers attending just about every week. Great program. I think the counselors did an outstanding job this year, and we are already starting to plan with what we've learned from this year for next year. And finally, I'm really looking forward to next Monday night's meeting. It's another step, I think, in the city's pursuit of a civic center. And I'm really anxious to see the results from the citizen survey and the needs assessment for our community. I'll be really curious to see what the citizens of Raymore are willing to put forth and what they think the city needs as far as this new recreational facility. Any questions you might have?
Questions of staff? Councilmember Moorhead?
Mr. Kennedy, for all the children that are better at hand-eye coordination and foot-eye coordination, how's the flag football sign-ups looking? And are kids, if they're not interested in soccer, is football still an option for them?
Yes, sir. Actually, the Cass County Junior Athletic Association came to us this year and informed us that they would no longer be offering a flag football program. So we have volunteered to take over their part of that program. So with that, registration is going well. I don't have exact numbers, but we are seeing a lot of kids coming over to flag. I don't know if the current concern over concussions and some of the injuries associated with young football players is driving this or not, but I still think the flag football program is a great alternative for younger aged football players.
Other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. I'll call on Chief Zimmerman.
You don't think I can talk loud enough? Thank you, Mr. Fearborn.
Good answer.
Thank you, Mr. Fearborn. Mr. Fearborn asked me to spend just a couple of minutes talking to you all this evening about the training that we conducted with the Ray-Pec School District last week in active shooter. And as many of you know, Senate Bill 75 was passed last year that amends the state statute by adding a requirement that all school districts, including charter schools, conduct active shooter and armed intruder training for all of their schools. The Ray-Pec School Security Task Force, of which I'm a member, the Chief of Peculiar is a member, and the Sheriff's Office as well, selected Strategos as the company that was going to come in and do that training for the school district. That's a local company, and the school district paid those folks to provide that training. They're a local company out of Grandview that was established in 2002 and have trained school districts all throughout our area as well as the rest of the nation. That was part of a driving factor to select Strategos because they've trained school districts such as Belton, Lee Summit, Raytown, Kansas City, Missouri schools. And as we all know, if a tragedy of that sort happens, those folks will be coming, obviously, to lend assistance if anything happened like that in the Ray-Pec School District, as well as us responding as well to them. So this training opportunity took place on the 7th and 8th, which was last Thursday and Friday, at 12 schools, all 12 schools in the Ray-Pec district. In preparation for that training, actually Raymore had provided training for police officers back on the 17th of July from Peculiar, all of our police officers here, the Highway Patrol, the Sheriff's Office as well, just to refresh our response to those types of scenarios prior to the school district training. Everyone in the Ray-Pec district got trained last Thursday and Friday, which I understand from Jay Harris, the assistant superintendent. 897 teachers, administrators, support staff, substitute teachers, custodians, food service, secretaries, maintenance, and grounds workers. So everyone got trained from the district. Our police officers attended the lecture portion of the training, which was in the morning on Thursday, and they participated in the simulation phase, which was Thursday afternoon and then Friday as well. And those scenarios, and I know Councilwoman Abdelgawad has been through this training, so she would be able to speak to how valuable that training is. We conducted those simulations where we were the responding officers in those situations, but it was the teachers actually who were learning the 3 outs that Strategos teaches, which is based on lockout, get out, or take out, much like the run, hide, fight that we talked about last year when we conducted this training. Also is required as a part of the state statute, the school district will have to provide refresher training in all the years to come. So as I mentioned, the numbers from Assistant Superintendent Jay Harris, they're going to continue to build on the knowledge that they've already established and have already put a program in place that will allow new hires during the course of the school year to get this same training as they come into the district new. We enjoy an excellent relationship with the school district, as I mentioned, sitting on that school security task force. But this was a great opportunity for us, all of our police officers who participated in those simulations, to partner with them, but also to partner with our other law enforcement agencies here in the surrounding area to do that training and to work with the teachers to make sure that they had a good understanding of what their capability is. Because I'm sure everybody agrees there's nothing more important than making sure that we're prepared if something like that happens. So, does anybody have any questions?
Questions for staff?
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Just a reminder of upcoming couple of meetings. This Saturday coming up at 8 a.m. in the morning, we have our budget work session, and that is conducted here in Chambers. We'll have a small continental breakfast and coffee and orange juice for the council members. Next week, as Mr. Kennedy had indicated, next Monday night is the regular quarterly joint meeting with the Park Board, and we will be presenting the ETC citizen survey results on the Civic Center, as well as the Ballard King market analysis and competitor analysis that is out there. I have been looking through the initial documents, and we're supposed to meet tomorrow to decide how to pare those down. For the council members who've been through the ETC citizen survey, you know the initial survey is about 3.5 inches thick because they do all the cross-tabbing, but they also have executive summaries of the cross-tabbing. For purposes of actually trying to get it done that night and not run into Tuesday morning, we will probably give you all the small document, but make available all of the crosstabs and the written form that you'll be seeing in graph form at the very beginning of the meeting. The meeting is intended to be broken down into 3 parts. The ETC report will be given in about 15 minutes. It'll be on, you all will be getting a written report and an executive summary, but there'll also be a PowerPoint showing the graphs, et cetera. About 15 minutes on the citizen survey, about 15 minutes on the market analysis, about 15 minutes of executive summary, trying to pull all those together. And then we wanted to keep that as brief as possible to allow the maximum amount of time for question and answer and to go through things on the part of the Park Board and the City Council. And then it will be up to the City Council to make the determination on what you want staff to bring to you as far as next steps, no next steps. The City Council has approved the first 2 parts of this contract, and it will be up to you after hearing all that to determine if you want to go on in the process. That concludes staff reports, sir.
Okay, thank you. Questions of staff? All righty. There are no committee reports this evening, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to dispose of the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented, including item A, City Council minutes from July 28th, 2014.
Second.
There is a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. We'll move on to unfinished business. All right, the second reading of Bill 2987 by title only.
The second reading of Bill 2987 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, amending the zoning map from Cass County Rural Residential District to RR Rural Residential District, Lot 1 in Willow Hills Subdivision, Raymore, Cass County, Missouri.
I'll entertain a motion to dispose of the second reading.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Bill 2987, Willow Hills Lot 1 rezoning.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the second reading of Bill 2987. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. May we have the second reading of Bill 2988 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 2988 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, approving a conditional use permit for a senior living facility for land located along the East Outer Road in Timber Trail subdivision, a subdivision located in Section 18, Township 46 North, Range 32 West in Raymore, Cass County, Missouri.
I'll entertain a motion to dispose of the second reading of Bill 2988.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Bill 2988, conditional use permit for Benton House of Raymore.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the second reading of Bill 2988. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Hubach?
Yes, I don't know whether you all saw Saturday's Kansas City Star. There's an article about Hunt Midwest and what they were doing on Benson Place. I did have a couple of questions that I would like to ask. They talked about Hunt Midwest and what they had done for senior citizens, and but what they did not say is, what does Hunt Midwest consider affordable housing for senior citizens? Are they talking about size of the facility? Are they talking about rental units, owning? What are they talking about, not only in Benson Place, but in the land that is immediately adjacent to them? Have they said anything to you about what their plans are? Because this is just one small part of the land that they own. And it looked to me, when I was looking at the maps, that they talk about having Johnston Drive be the connection. Well, it looked to me like Barberry Lane was actually closer to them if they would try to develop anything that was in the SAP group. So have they said anything about what they plan to do with the land that's surrounding this Benson House?
Yes, they have. The Benton House takes up around 5 acres of the overall land area. It's about 30 acres of multifamily zoned land area in the Timber Trail subdivision. The area to the north and to the east of the proposed Benton House is still reserved for apartment units. And the proposed southern boundary line of the apartments, dividing the apartments and the Benton House from the single family, would be an extension of Johnston Drive. They will construct a portion of Johnston Drive with the Benton House, but it will not go all the way over and connect to Dean Avenue as part of this project. I do note that when the applicant was here at first reading this particular item, they indicated that the Benton House is a market rate facility. So they have not indicated, any affordable housing portion of either this Benton House facility or their other apartment facility at this time.
Any other discussion?
Then I take it, Mr. Mayor, that they're going to be developing south of the Benton House on the low-density residential rather than on the high-density residential up there toward the part of Timber Trails that's already been developed. Is that correct?
It is correct. The land area to the south, which would be south of Johnston Drive, is reserved for only single-family development. The area from Johnston Drive up to north, where their townhomes are, is all reserved for multifamily apartments.
Other discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the second reading of Bill 2988. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. And we'll move on to, we have the second reading of Bill 2989 by title only.
The second reading of Bill 2989 by title only. An ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri approving the final plat for Foxwood Plaza Lot 2, a subdivision in the northeast and northwest quarters of Section 17, Township 46 North, Range 32 West in Raymore, Cass County, Missouri.
I'll entertain a motion to dispose of the second reading of Bill 2989.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Bill 2989, Foxwood Plaza Lot 2, final plat.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the second reading of Bill 2989. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. And let's see, may we have the second reading Bill 2986 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 2986 by title only. An ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Oshner Hair and Hair LLC in an amount not to exceed $5,850 for design services for the Roundabout Decorative Feature Project, City Project number 14-160-302.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to dispose of the second reading of Bill 2986.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Bill 2986, roundabout design services.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the second reading of Bill 2986. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Hubach?
Yes, I have concern not about passing this, but my concern is that we are using designated funds for that, which is the excise tax. And as you know, the excise tax is only supposed to be used as the people voted on it. It is to be used solely for streets and related improvements and the requisition of rights-of-way to accommodate the increased traffic. This is not really meet that standard, because what we're talking about in here, I think you all have referred to it as a decorative addition, and maybe using it as a theme in some way for other entries. I have no objection to that. My objection is using excise tax funds that are supposed to be designated for street improvements, and that's not a street improvement. It doesn't have anything to do with traffic at all. It is to be a decorative feature there. And so I'm saying that it needs to come from the general fund rather than from the excise. I object to being excise funds being used for anything but roads.
I saw Councilmember Moorhead's finger first, so you'll have second chance.
Mr. Fairborn, could you speak to whether we're inappropriately dipping into an excise tax?
Councilmember Hubach correctly quotes the ballot language, or a component of the ballot language, in that it is to be used for streets, construction, reconstruction, repair, maintenance, improvements are the words that are used within the code and within the actual ballot language. I believe it would be a council interpretation as to whether this would be considered a street improvement. That would be the one that it could go through on. I would point out to the council that having not had a reading yet on any component of construction that would be associated with this, and the possibility that construction of any kind may require some sort of a budget amendment, if the council were to so choose, we could amend the budget at a later date to both include the design service and construction to either capital improvement sales tax, which would have funds in it in their balance, or general fund balance, as was indicated by Councilmember Hubach at that time. Does that help?
But as a follow-up, so if we're using excise tax money to, say, expand or develop a parkway that has a divided median, any of the landscaping, decorative nature that would go into that region, any grass, any displays, that would be included in the whole total work project for the road as well, that could be paid out of the excise tax.
For instance, Dean Avenue going in, if they had a decorative median, a grassy median down the center of it, that median would be permitted to be paid for out of the excise tax because it would be considered an improvement to the road.
Councilmember Abdel-Gawad?
It seems to me like that would fit under that same category, like Mr. Moorhead just said. Although because two people, I'm hesitant to do this because I'd like to really get this going, but because two people from our committee are absent tonight, I wonder if we should defer this. If anybody agrees, I'll move that we defer this till our next council meeting.
Are you making a motion for deferral?
I would second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to defer to our next council meeting,
Dates.
to a meeting specific,
August 25th, I believe, sir.
August 25th. Thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion to defer? All in favor? We got 1, 2, 3, 4. And it requires 5 if I'm, okay, so the motion to defer is, failed. There,
No,
that was.
that's just a motion to defer. That'll be a simple majority of the whole
Oh,
passage. It's
so
not
we
to
don't need
approve
5.
the ordinance. Any ordinance tonight would require 5, yes. but
Okay, but the motion to defer just requires a majority.
In my
Thank you for
opinion, yeah.
correcting me. In that case, it didn't fail. All opposed? Just for the record, thank you, too. We are deferred on this item until August 25th?
August 25th.
Well, at least I get the date right. And we'll move on to, maybe we have the second reading of Bill 2984 by title only.
The second reading of Bill 2984 by title only. An ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri approving and authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Midwest Digital Systems to purchase and install a security camera system upgrade for an amount not to exceed $27,985 and authorizing the acting city manager to approve change orders within established budget constraints.
I'll entertain a motion to dispose of the second reading of Bill 2984.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Bill 2984, security camera system for City Hall.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the second reading of Bill 2984. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. And that takes care of old business. We'll move on to new business, beginning with Bill 2992, which requires a public hearing. So may we have the first reading of Bill 2992, please, by title only.
The first reading of Bill 2992 by title only. an ordinance pursuant to Section 67.110 of the revised statutes of Missouri, levying general and special taxes in the city of Raymore, Missouri for the year 2014.
Thank you, and I'll open up the public hearing by asking for a staff report.
Thank you, sir. Each year following the Board of Equalization meeting on the total assessed value and hearing those taxes within each jurisdiction levying the property tax, the total assessed valuation report is provided by the county to both the taxing jurisdiction, the city of Raymore in this case, as well as the state auditor to determine what the ad valorem tax is, which can be charged to be revenue neutral to the previous year. The Hancock Amendment with our operating levies does not allow us, the levy begins and ends with the amount of revenue that you have collected. What the Hancock Amendment actually says is we can't collect any more revenue looking at the same snapshot of the city this year than we collected last year. Can't go up. I call it a water balance test. Basically, if the assessed valuations go up enough, the levy goes down. Vice versa, if the assessed valuations don't go up by enough to meet inflation, then you can creep up your levies to make up that difference, so you're collecting the same amount as the previous year plus inflation. In this case, after we had duly posted up the public hearing notice, which a little bit of a complaint here from your acting city manager, has to go up amazingly early for this. It's up in July, so all of the numbers that we use for the notice for this are estimated numbers. And we say in the notice, none of these numbers are going to come in where you see them now. We promise you we'll have the good numbers to you on Friday before the hearing, after we've already mailed it to you. Sometimes, there have been a couple of times we actually had to ask for an emergency reading of this particular ordinance because they came in so late. In any event, having now received the finalized numbers from the county clerk, city staff does recommend that the levy for general purposes in our general fund be 46 47 cents, .4647 per $100 of assessed valuation, the same as it was last year. No raising. For the sinking fund, the debt service fund, that the levy assessed be 71 70 cents, .7170 per $100 of assessed valuation. That the park levy be assessed at 12 51 cents, .1251 per $100 of assessed valuation. No increase is being recommended by staff. The overall levy then would remain the same as the previous year at $1.3068. The debt service component of the levy could actually have been raised, according to the state auditor's office and the Hancock Amendment, to 0.7518. Staff is reviewing past council practice and what we believe your wishes to be, and we are therefore recommending not capturing the full 0.7518, but rolling it back to last year's amount of 0.7170, therefore making the overall levy the same as last year, 1.3068, as opposed to the 1.3416, which you all could have captured, a difference of 3.48 cents, which represents non-capture of $95,672. That concludes staff reports.
Thank you. Thank you. Questions of staff? Councilmember Holman, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hit an air pocket there. Lost 20,000 feet of altitude.
Mr. Feuerborn, just check for understanding. Obviously, this is one issue that people who don't generally get involved in city business are always interested in. Do our taxes go up or do they stay the same? And obviously you gave us a recommendation to keep the levy at the same amount. Can you just provide me a historical perspective of what the city's past practices have been or actions have been, say for a 3 to 5 year snapshot on this, since I'm the newest person on the council?
The city levy has been set overall at a total of 1.3068 for the last 11 years. This would make the 11th year that we would remain constant at this amount. For the last 4 years, for the last 5 years, the council has had the ability to capture, because the assessed valuations have not gone up to meet inflation in any of those years, which inflation was amazingly low, which shows you how little the assessed valuations were actually going up. And in one of those years, the assessed valuations actually reversed on themselves. But in those years, we could have captured more. According to that water balance test, the levy could have gone up. The city council has chosen to hold the line and keep the levy at 1.3068 during each of those 5 years as well. The years prior to that, these levy amounts were actually what could be levied, with the exception of the debt service levy.
Thank you, sir.
Other questions of staff for Councilmember Abdel-Gawad?
Just one more question for clarification, just to be sure that this is clear to everybody. Voting yes for this bill does not raise anybody's taxes.
That is correct. Can I qualify that just slightly? What you have to remember is we are working in the aggregate. So it wasn't a reassessment year, it's only a growth year. Is it possible that somebody went out there and went to the Board of Equalization for the county and protested their taxes, and the Board of Equalization actually raised their taxes, which they have the right to do, and said, you know what, we think your assessed valuation is higher? There could be some isolated cases out there that we are unaware of, but in the aggregate and for everybody else, the assessed valuation on your home remains the same and you're paying the same amount on your tax levy.
Councilmember Kellogg?
I'm going to ask a rhetorical question. Basically, what this is, correct me if I'm wrong, please, is just the ratio that's used by the county government to charge the homeowner, the property owner, for the tax that is owed. We are setting that ratio that can be taxed per $100 of property tax. Am I correct?
Right.
Thank you.
Other questions?
For $100 of assessed valuation.
Thank you.
The short formula, just because I love talking about this, the short formula of it is you take the market value of your home times 0.19, because your assessed valuation is 19% of the market value of your home. Market value of your home times 0.19 divided by 100, because you pay on every 100, and that's what the 1.3068 applies to. Because it was only a growth year, they didn't go to John Smith's home and reassess it this year. That should have the same assessed value, and we're applying the exact same levy to the exact same formula. It should be the same. Now, the other thing that needs to be remembered is the city levy isn't the only portion of the levy. In fact, we're in the minority there. The school district is a huge chunk of that. It's 3/4 of it. If they've done anything with theirs, people will see an increase. But the city of Raymore is not raising taxes.
Other questions of staff? Okay, I'll open the floor for public comment. If you'd like to make a comment, come forward, state your name and address for the record, and keep your comments to under 5 minutes or so. Seeing no one, whoop, we got somebody coming up. My goodness. No, this is fine.
Taxes will do that.
Yeah.
My name is Susan Dooley. I live at 606 Condor. I've been here since April with my family, and we moved here from Leawood, and we're very happy. We have wonderful neighbors, a wonderful neighborhood with lots of kids, and we're just thrilled to be here. We bought chickens.
Oh,
We bought
hold it
4
right there.
chickens.
Hold on right there. Is this comments about the tax item that's before us right now?
No.
Okay, you're going to have to wait just a bit then.
Forgive me.
That's fine, that's
All right.
fine. Yeah, we'll let you talk here in just a few minutes. Anybody else? Okay, I will close the public hearing, and I'll entertain a motion to dispose of the first reading of Bill 2992.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Bill 2992, setting the 2014 tax levy.
Seconded.
There's a lot of eagerness there to second it. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. We will move on to the first reading of Bill 2990. May we have the reading of Bill 2990 by title only, please?
The first reading of Bill 2990 by title only. An ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Terry Snelling Construction, Inc. for the Eagle Glen Trail Project, City Project Number 14-177-201, in the amount of $182,300, and authorizing the acting city manager to approve change orders within established budget constraints.
Thank you. Staff report?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll call on Mr. Krass.
Thank you, Mr. Fearborn. Mr. Mayor, members of council, this project involves the reconstruction of the Eagle Glen Trail between Johnson Drive and just north of Lucy Webb Road. The fiscal year 2014 capital budget includes an amount of $182,000 to fund this project. The bids received, as summarized in our memo, came in slightly higher than that amount. We did renegotiate a scope of work with the low bidder, Terry Snelling Construction, that allows us to still meet all of the project requirements, but get fairly close to the budget. The final contract amount is $182,300. Terry Snelling's references have been checked. They have done quite a bit of work in the city. We recommend approval of this contract.
Thank you. Questions of staff? Councilmember Holman?
Was down at Eagle Glen today for preview day, and I saw that there's some work being done. Is that part of this project, or is it separate?
No, that's actually part of the roadside trail rehabilitation project.
Thank you.
Other questions of staff? Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to dispose of the first reading of Bill 2990.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Bill 2991,
2990.
2990.
It's okay. I made a mistake earlier.
I'm on the wrong page. The Eagle Glen Trail reconstruction, sorry.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve the first reading of Bill 2990. Is there any discussion?
Are we talking about 2990 or 91?
2990.
Okay.
Councilmember,
Yes, I see it now then. Thank
okay.
you.
Councilmember Kellogg?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm kind of confused, and I'll ask staff to explain this. I don't understand the need for stormwater gardens in an area that is right alongside of the drainage creek. Why are we putting rain gardens in an area so close to that?
The purpose of the rain gardens is to provide stormwater treatment, stormwater quality treatment before it discharges into the creek. The other reason for that is one of the things that we are able to capture in those rain gardens, and we are correcting as part of this project. There's some drainage issues associated with the trail where the flared end sections from irrigation water and really low flows and groundwater tend to weep across the trail and create issues. The rain gardens are going to allow us to capture almost 90% of the runoff from the more frequent, the 1.3 inch rainstorm, plus all of the other little rain, all of the other small little rain events. It's going to treat the water that rushes off the road, that has all of the rubber from the tires and all of the other brake dust and all of the things that wash off during the first flush rainstorms into the stream. We can capture those at the rain gardens before they discharge into the stream.
This particular method has been strongly recommended and vetted to us through the EPA.
Other discussion? Councilmember Hubach?
I just want to know who's going to pay for the upkeep of this. Is this coming out of Public Works budget, or is this coming out of the Park and Recreation budget for the maintenance of these four?
The maintenance of anything that's within the parks or along the trail system is the responsibility of Parks and Recreation.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Kellogg?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Kind of curious also, thinking about some of the discussions we've had most recently. With these rain gardens, are we going to be creating another set of buffers around them that we have to worry about protecting at that point? You know, this whole runoff discussion is just a huge can of worms, and this here just throws another facet on that stone there, and I'm just wondering if we're going to have to protect our rain gardens after we put those in, looking down the road.
No, the rain gardens are the rain gardens. Another component of this is we will be working with the Parks Department to reestablish the riparian corridor along the east side of the trail, which is the west side of the stream, which is currently being mowed down to the top of the bank. That creates a lot of problems with erosion and those type of things. So we are going to be returning that entire corridor to a more natural area to prevent erosion of the banks and also provide additional water quality.
Other discussion? Councilmember Holman and then Hubach?
Am I correct in assuming, Mr. Krass, that this would be one segment of our mitigation that's important in our, is it MS4 permitting?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Councilmember Hubach?
Well, that was what my question was, because you mentioned EPA, and we don't want any more problems with them. So if this satisfies them, it satisfies me.
Okay. Other discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? 1, 2. Motion carries unanimously. May we have the first reading of Bill 2991 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 2991 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, amending the fiscal year 2014 capital budget.
Staff report, please.
Thank you, sir. I'll call on Mr. Krass.
Thank you, Mr. Fairborn. Mr. Mayor, members of council, this is a companion to the previous bill that was just considered by council. As we indicated, the final contract amount was $300 over the budget for this project. In addition, on project of this nature, we like to have a contingency for unforeseen conditions that may arise, such as subgrade corrections, some other things that we may encounter on the project. We are recommending a contingency amount of 5% of the project, or $8,730, and are requesting a budget amendment in that amount.
Thank you. Questions of staff? Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to dispose of the first reading of Bill 2991.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Bill 2991, the budget amendment for the Eagle Glen Trail reconstruction.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the first reading of Bill 2991. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. May we have the first reading of Bill 2985 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 2985 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, to establish a procedure to disclose potential conflicts of interest and substantial interest for certain officials and candidates for elective offices.
Staff report, please.
Thank you, sir. I'll call on Chief Zimmerman.
For the financial disclosures?
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry.
Okay.
I'll break up there.
Just for the record, I started it this evening, okay?
Come on in here. I think I'll call on the city clerk.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, sir. Missouri law requires that political subdivisions with their annual operating budgets over $1 million adopt an ordinance making public its method of disclosing potential conflicts of interest. The only officials with the City of Raymore that need file a financial disclosure statement for the following year are the Chief Purchasing Officer, the Chief Administrative Officer, and those employees and elected officials who have a transaction of more than $500 with the city of Raymore. Concludes staff report.
Thank you. Questions of staff? Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to dispose of the first reading of Bill 2985.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Bill 2985, Financial Disclosure Ordinance.
I second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve the first reading of Bill 2985. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. May we have the first reading of Bill 2994 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 2994 by title only. An ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, adding Section 340.300, text messaging and using a handheld mobile device while operating a motor vehicle prohibited when exceptions, definitions, violations, penalty to the Raymore City Code.
Thank you. Staff report?
Thank you, Your Honor. I think I'll call on Chief Zimmerman.
I was a little worried about talking about that last one. As the council remembers, back at the beginning of June, Councilman Stevens reached out to us to talk about texting while driving and the possibility of creating an ordinance here for the city of Raymore. Our research showed, and then in the meeting that the council conducted, the work session of July 7th, that because of the wording of the state statute, we are required, or any city that creates an ordinance of this type is required to mirror the state statute. So what you all have before you is an ordinance that was created by Mr. Marshall. We reached out to him and he crafted that, removing that section that is listed in the state statute that says basically the ordinance has to mirror the statute, and then adjustments made with the thanks to Ms. Werner, showing on the streets and roadways of the city of Raymore. We have created a place within the city code that would be appropriate in all types of traffic violations that mirrors the state statute.
Questions of staff? Councilmember Kellogg?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I support this, but I do have a question as far as future changes, possible changes, if Missouri legislature ever does anything actually with this. If they change the state statutes, will we be required as city council to come back and change the city ordinance, or will the future city ordinance just mirror what the state statutes come out with?
Our ordinance, or at least the proposed ordinance, is worded in such a way that it does mirror the state statute. So if there was any significant change in the state statute, the wording of the state statute stayed the same, that said we needed to mirror that, there might be a possibility that we might have to change the wording of our ordinance as well.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. The Section 304.820 preempts the field, and the Chief and Mr. Marshall have perfectly laid it out here. If the legislature comes back and amends it, we'll need to watch that, monitor it, and we would need to amend our statute because ours will remain the same, Councilman Kellogg. It wouldn't automatically change with the state statute, even though they preempted the field. So if they would either broaden it or enhance it, we would be able to do that more if we wanted to, or you could say at the same position you're at. You would have council discretion as long as you didn't contradict or try to apply more of a regulation than what the state statutes laid out.
Councilmember Kellogg?
Okay, with the possible passage of this ordinance, does this provide us as a city any more benefit that we didn't have before?
Yes,
ordinance?
the city police then can enforce as an ordinance violation, and not just solely be in the jurisdiction of the state trooper or the state police to enforce this. Your police can enforce this on our streets, correct?
Yes, it's much easier for any police department to write a traffic citation rather than try to enforce a portion of the state statute and make it a state law violation. So yes, it would be much easier for us to cite violators.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Abdelgawad?
I just have a quick question. I was curious, is this an offense that officers would be able to pull someone over for, or just one that they could write them for if they were pulled over for something else?
Yes, we would be able to stop someone for this violation.
Councilmember Holman?
You've already said it, but just for simplification for everybody, the current Missouri state statute makes this an infraction or a crime, if you will, traffic offense for anyone 21 years of age or younger. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
And by state law, we can't be any stricter than that, even though there might be support for making the law across the board for every driver, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any further questions of staff? Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to dispose of the first reading of Bill 2994.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Bill 2994, City Code Section 340.300, texting while driving.
Second.
We got a motion and a second to approve the first reading of Bill 2984. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Kellogg?
I'll state it again, I wish we could do this to make it more stricter, but state statutes has tied our hands, and it's illegal for us to do that. I just see that it's ludicrous that it's any more dangerous for somebody under 21 to text and drive over somebody that's 21 years of age one day to text and drive. It's pretty stupid, it's dangerous, and people are dying from it basically every day, and I wish we could make this a little bit stricter, but my hand's tied.
Councilmember Holman?
Councilman Kellogg, I concur with your comments 100%. But I think this is might be what's described as a baby step in the right direction, if you will. I remember when I started in law enforcement, blood alcohol content allowed to be on the street at legal level at the time was 0.13. Later lowered to 0.10 and now down to the current 0.08. So sometimes it takes our state as the show me state a little bit longer to get there. I have confidence that we will in the terms of public safety. I do agree with your comments, but just to let you know, I have the confidence that we'll get there someday, just not today.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. That completes new business. We'll move on to public comments. If there's anybody who'd like to speak, please identify yourself for the record and keep your comments to under 5 minutes.
Try it once more. My name's Susan Dooley. I live at 606 Condor in Raymore, and I've lived here about 4 months, and I'm very happy to be here. I have 4 chickens. When we first moved out, it was part of the dream to live kind of near the country and have some backyard chickens, have our own eggs, make sure that everything we put into them is organic and healthy so that we can get that out. No antibiotics or soy or GMO for my kids and my grandchildren. We also thought it would be an opportunity to save some money on eggs, because if you want to get something organic or free range or anything like that, you can pay at least $4.50 for a dozen. And, you know, we have a fairly large family. We go through them. The reasons for keeping backyard chickens, and you probably will agree with a lot of this, is number one, to save money, also to get the eggs that are organic and natural. But they also provide a chemical-free pesticide. Chickens are pretty voracious when it comes to insects. And I noticed in the front yard, where our chickens do not run, there are tons and tons of bugs, crickets. When you step, everything just flies around. In the backyard, there aren't any. It's pretty nice. They also till the soil for us, which is kind of nice. If we relocate them to different parts of the yard, they will just scratch everything up and turn it over. I plan to have them put my garden to bed this year in the fall. They also provide a lot of manure. We have it localized, luckily, and we keep it clean. Everything that we shovel out of the coop goes into a manure pile, a compost bin, and we use it in our garden to provide free fertilizer. It's also very useful for our children. We have a 12-year-old and a bunch of adult children, so we have 4 grandchildren. And the little ones just love the chickens. The 6-year-old in particular will come by and feed the chickens, water the chickens, look for eggs. There aren't any yet, they're too young. But he's very invested in them, loves them deeply, and he'll bring out his leftovers after dinner to feed them. It teaches him responsibility. He will go out there and check and make sure they have enough water, make sure they have enough feed, make sure everybody looks okay. He'll check them over pretty thoroughly. He also is learning more about how nature functions. He associates these living chickens with the food on his plate now. He understands what happens as they grow older. He's raised them from chicks with us. So he has a pretty good idea now of where his food comes from, and he feels more connected to it. We feel that having chickens reduces our carbon footprint and also reduces the amount of landfill waste. because they eat a lot of the weeds we would have thrown in the landfill and a lot of the leftovers. So those are all good reasons to keep chickens. A lot of other municipalities have also passed regulations that allow backyard chickens, the closest being Lee Summit. And from what I understand, they have had some success, no major problems yet. So that bodes well for us. Kansas City, Missouri also allows chickens. A lot of the major municipalities like Chicago, New York, Providence, Rhode Island, Portland, Oregon, San Francisco, they all have backyard chickens allowed in their municipalities. In fact, in Jersey City and Fayetteville, Arkansas, they're actually actively promoting backyard chickens to help reduce carbon footprint and get people more in touch with their food chain. Benefits to municipalities for having backyard chickens. Number one, I propose maybe license fees for maintaining chickens or having a coop. This would provide a little bit of revenue. Admittedly, there might be more complaints about chickens if someone is not good about keeping them up. You already have regulations in place, I notice, that prohibit any kind of noise, nuisance, or any kind of smelly area, you know, something that's not neat and clean. So those are already on the books. The only thing that would have to be changed would probably just be the actual code. The actual code is kind of vaguely worded. The word chickens is not in the code at all. It is enforced in a way that pertains to chickens, and you know that is the city's right to do. But there is a little bit of room for flexibility. I suggest possible license fees or fees to maintain a coop, maybe possibly even a chicken keeping class to make sure that people are all on the same page when it comes to keeping chickens and what we expect of them. Also, the municipality could benefit from the increased city revenue from local businesses. Vets would be able to vaccinate local chickens for salmonella to alleviate any worry if that's part of it. Let's see, hardware stores, you know, Farm and Fleet stores would be stocking more chicken supplies. Home Depots would be stocking more equipment to build coops and pens and fences. And of course, the municipality would also benefit by issuing permits for those kind of structures. So I do propose that we change this ordinance. Our chickens personally live in a really cute coop that matches our shed. You wouldn't know they were there unless you lived right next door or behind us. We have wonderful neighbors to each side of us that would love to have chickens of their own, and their children enjoy coming over to see them and just watching through the fence as they grow. We use herbs and natural things in our coop. We try to maintain them in a very clean fashion. And like I said, anything that comes out of the coop goes into the manure pile, into the compost bin, so we can use it again. We don't have a rooster, and we never will have a rooster, even if we're allowed to keep the chickens. I encourage you, all of you, to come visit our coop and just pop in any time. We'd be happy to show you around, and you'd see how it would hopefully be maintained by other people. So in conclusion, we think that having a coop in the backyard would be something that would help provide food security for struggling families, and there are a few now in this day and age. You would also be more connected to your food supply. You'd be able to put in what you want out of your food. Free bug killer, free fertilizer, and less landfill. A unique educational opportunity for your kids, and they're pretty entertaining. They're fun to watch at all times. I appreciate your time and your thoughtful consideration of this, and I look forward to hearing the results of your deliberations. Have you any questions for me?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to come forward? I'm watching this time. Okay, we'll close the, where's my notes here? Close the public comments, and we'll move on to mayor-council communication using my handy-dandy list of random council member names. This evening, we'll start with Councilmember Abdel-Gawad.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jeannie, can I ask you a quick question? What time is the joint meeting?
It begins at 6:30.
At 6:30, okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Other than that, I just will express my, I don't know if joy is the right word. I was excited to hear that the school district did armed intruder training with our police department, Peculiar Police Department, the county sheriff's office, and Strategos. And as Chief Zimmerman said, I was able to go through that training, I think it's been a couple of years ago in Belton, and it's an amazing experience. They do simulations like there really is an intruder in the building with the police there. The teachers are able to go through 3 different scenarios, one where we kind of use our old techniques, just the flat lockdown, and I mean, the people coming through the building actually let you know if you get hit, and you find out how many people survived, and then you get to do the scenario again and use some of their techniques, and then they kind of do a little coaching with you, and you get to do it a 3rd time. And it was really eye-opening to see what a difference, it was empowering to the teachers to see what a difference some of the easy techniques that they taught us made as far as protecting the people that are in the building. So I'm really excited to see that. And I have heard from many of my teacher friends in Ray-Pec how much they were a little shocked. It's surprising to people who don't live that every day, like the police officers. But they were very thankful that they have those tools in their tool belt to use. Hopefully never have to use them, but if not, they feel much more prepared. So thanks to the police department for working on that training, and of course the school district and Strategos for helping to protect our kids.
Thank you. Councilmember Hubach?
Nothing tonight.
Thank you. Councilmember Kellogg?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I got a lot to say, but I'm not going to say it all. So you're welcome.
We're going to keep you to 5 minutes, okay?
Is that all? I'm respectfully frustrated tonight. I wish we could have went further with the contract for the roundabout feature. I think it's a flimsy reasoning. If we would have put the if we would have had the vision of having a feature there when we built that, that would have been included in the cost of the construction, and there would have been no question. You know, things didn't happen that way, and we are where we are, and we are fighting tooth and nail to get this done. And thank you for that again. Like I say, I'm respectfully frustrated, but I have total confidence, faith, and the ability of the committee to work together to make this come to pass, and it just can't happen soon enough for me, because that's how excited about it I am. But anyway, nonetheless, we'll carry on. We'll carry on there. There was some other things I wanted to say. Oh, I'm happy to see that council is supported for the 11th year in a row, no tax increase from the city of Raymore. So that's something that I think, you know, I tout it all the time when I talk to somebody. I just talked to a couple people at work today about it. And so, you know, it's very nice to hear that, and something that, you know, I personally am proud to tout, and I know many of my colleagues up here are also. I've been informed, and I'll pass my condolences on to my colleague Jeff Stevens, the passing of your mother. Sorry to hear about your loss. You know, my thoughts and prayers, and wish you the best, and the best for your family. And that's all I got.
You kept it under 5 minutes. Good job. Good job.
I can go.
Yeah, no, you gave up the rest of your time. Councilmember Holman, you're next.
Just 2 short comments, and it's kudos for 2 groups. Mr. Fearborn and staff, another excellent job as usual by everyone. Appreciate the work that was done. Feel we're fortunate as a city to have the group that we have working for us, and the work that you do every day for the citizens of Raymore. Kudos to the public that's here tonight. We have 2 distinct groups, obviously one that made public comment, and the Boy Scouts, which have been recognized. Now, my final comment's going to be directed to I think there's 3 young men there in the audience. Basically, your thought of this, I'm sure, was something like, I don't want to go sit through this boring meeting, but I have to get my badge, something along those lines. This is nice because what you will be able to take away from this is the next time that you're out with somebody and they make the comment about why did they put that stupid stop sign here, or why is the speed limit only 25, you can say you were part of the process of how those kinds of things work. It is boring and sometimes it's very lengthy, but this is how we build our city every day, every week, every year, year upon year. And you guys are actually part of it. Like I said, it's not as exciting as TV or a playground or a video game, but it's important so that we can do the things that we can do and get to the places we need to get safely. Thank you for being here.
Councilmember Stevens?
Just one thing. I just want to thank everybody for the flowers for my mother. Appreciate it.
And Councilmember Moorhead?
Mr. Mayor, I distinctly remember you saying that the extra time of Mr. Kellogg is seated, so I will absorb that. No,
We're gonna hold you to 30 seconds.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I first of all want to thank the Dooleys for coming out. You know, we benefit a great deal from communication that citizens give to the city. I know that they're communicate a great deal with staff, and we try to be a conduit for that too. And I appreciate you having the willingness to come up here and share that. I would mention that when I was on the Planning and Zoning Commission 3 years ago, we had a very extensive discussion about, we call them urban chickens, but that whole concept. And so I know that the Planning and Zoning Commission chewed on that quite a bit, almost to the point to where I got teased about it for over a year. But and then I know we had a staff intern that had done an extensive presentation, presented it to staff and to the council. So this has been a discussion for a long time. We reviewed it a little over a year ago. But that doesn't mean that we're closed to reviewing it again. And so we welcome the comments and the reminders to say, hey, this is an issue for us to consider, and I know staff will. And to pick on Mr. Cataret, I know he may have copies of some of that intern's report if you want to see. So we got a very I learned more about chickens than I ever thought or wanted to know, but it was very informative and enjoyable. So thank you for that, and we welcome your recommendation. I would turn to the Scouts and say I know at least one of them served in Scouts with my son. Yep, Robert, I see you over there. And thank you for coming out. You know, I know that sometimes it feels like you do things just to earn the patch itself, but it's the culmination of all these tasks that really makes you a much better and well-rounded person later. And I will also be a little more negative than Councilmember Holman. If you do not carry your weight at the next camp out, I think your PAC leader may have a copy of the 2014 tax levy supporting documentation that you'll be required to read. So I'm kidding on that. I enjoyed reading it. I have no problem with that. So, but thank you for being here too. So, and actually that's all I have.
Thank you. I'll recognize again the Boy Scouts this evening. Thanks for coming out. I hope you learned something, and if not, maybe we entertained you. So, and which reminds me, the school is going to be coming back into session here real soon, so I expect to see students out here. Wednesday, is it? Wednesday, okay. The joint meeting, it was suggested that we perhaps cancel the joint meeting. I'd like to also offer that we consider rescheduling it, maybe for September or something like that. That's an important meeting. I know that I will not be able to attend the one that's in August, but if we reschedule one, maybe I can attend it. Farmers Market was mentioned, and that has been just going nuts. This is gangbusters this year. There's a credible number of vendors and people out there. I've heard comments that from outside the city, you know, you got to go to Raymore's Farmers Market. It's the place to be. So, and road stripes. I had a comment from somebody saying that they really do like the new road stripes, the black and white ones, not the ones that are surrounded, but the ones that go white and then black. So, then the other thing I wanted to mention was a meeting that we held in here on Wednesday, and I was going to write up a lengthy thing to read, but city staff did it for me. So I'm just going to read this. This is about the school road closing. And the staff put out, with phase one of the school road reconstruction project underway and the start of the school year imminent, the City of Raymore organized an informal meeting on August 6th to discuss the impact of road closures and detours to student drivers en route to and from Raymore Peculiar High School. Representatives from the following organizations were in attendance at Wednesday's meetings. The mayors of Raymore and Peculiar, Raymore Public Works, Raymore Police Department, Peculiar Police Department, South Metro Fire Protection District, Apple Bus Company, Raymore Peculiar School District, Hoyt Excavating, Cook, Flat, and Strobel, Cass County Government, and the Missouri Department of Transportation. The purpose of the meeting was to discuss the project schedule, its impact, safety concerns about student drivers traveling along Hubach Hill Road to J Highway to 195th Street detour route, and the accident history at the Hubach Hill and J Highway and 195th Street and J Highway intersections. Quoting, I believe this is our city engineer, we wanted to make all parties impacted by the school road reconstruction project aware of the concerns that we had, said Raymore Public Works Director Mike Grass. Even though it's a Cass County project, there is some accident history there that we're not sure everybody is aware of. So we wanted to bring those concerns forward. The same reasons the school road is being reconstructed are the same concerns city staff has about the detours. Student drivers getting impatient and don't always exercise the best judgment. So we want to make sure that detours are as safe as possible. Several action steps came out of the multi-agency meeting, including Cass County agreeing to perform brush trimming to provide better visibility to the approach to J Highway at 195th Street. MoDOT will also add fill dirt to the corners of the intersection to enable buses and larger emergency vehicles to make turns without dropping their wheels off the road. MoDOT will also perform some trimming along the J Highway and Hubach Hill Road intersection. The Cass County Sheriff's Office and the Raymore Police will provide additional traffic enforcement within the detour areas to discourage speeding and reckless driving, especially before and after school drive times. The City of Raymore is in the process of adjusting its traffic signal at Hubach Hill and school roads to prioritize the left turning movement onto Hubach, since the movement is no longer needed with the road closure and the construction site. Additionally, MoDOT has agreed to reduce the speed limit along the detour portion of J Highway and is currently evaluating the possibility of creating temporary four-way stops on J Highway and Hubach Hill Road, 195th Street, and the 203rd intersections to increase safety in these areas. A follow-up meeting will be conducted in about a month to review the project and to see whatever additional adjustments are needed to make at the detour. Weather permitting, the contractor anticipates phase 1 of the reconstruction project wrapping up by early November. Anybody with questions of this project may contact Terry Falconberry, Cass County Road and Bridge Director at 816-380-8360. I'll also make a couple of comments about the meeting itself. There was a lot of good information coming from all the concerned parties, the police, the engineering. Apple Bus Company had made a statement about 80 40-foot long buses queued up on Hubach Hill. They made for a wonderful visual. So finally, I'd like to express special thanks to the city engineer, Chief Zimmerman, acting city manager Fearborn, for their quick action on pulling this meeting together. This is an important thing. We got a lot of good communications going this time. We have more meetings coming up. We have an agreement that the next phase, they'll bring us all back together again, so that the next phase we don't have this surprise like we did this time. So that's all I've got for that. We do have a reason to go into executive session. I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session for personal matters as authorized by 610-021 sub 3.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we go into executive session to discuss personnel matters as authorized by 610.021 sub 3.
I second.
There's a motion and a second to go into executive session. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Abdelgawad.
Yes.
Councilmember Boehner absent. Councilmember Holman.
Yes.
Councilmember Hubach. Councilmember
Yes.
Councilmember Kellogg.
Yes.
Councilmember Moorhead.
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens.
Yes.
Councilmember Westcoat absent.
We will retire to executive session. We'll reconvene only to adjourn the main meeting. Thank you.